Hey everyone, welcome back. This week's video, how to get your beats bigger and fatter. Big shout to one of my subscribers who wrote in the comments who asked to show a video on how to do this. So asking you shall receive. If you want to see a video of any type of particular video, should I say, mixing, mastering, production, 90s jungle, drum and bass, hardware, software, just let me know. That's what I do. So yeah, asking you shall receive, and this is what I'm going to do now. So how you get your beats bigger and fatter, the processing, the workflow, the techniques, and the plugins. This is Cubase 14, by the way, just to let you know that just came out. The version that I'll be using, it's the Pro version. Some of the plugins are from the older versions of Cubase as well, so you can actually check them out online after this. Coming up soon as well, just want to mention, big shout out to all my subscribers. We're on nearly 9,000 now, which is amazing. And when it gets 10,000 or before Christmas, whichever comes first, there's going to be a huge giveaway, a really special giveaway of some nice treats. So hold tight for more info on that in the coming shows, the coming episodes. But yeah, I just want to say thanks to everyone who's been liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, viewing, checking out the stuff. And again, like I said, if you want to see a particular video, let me know. There's some really cool ones coming up, like I said before in previous videos. We're going to drag the samplers out. We're going to do breakdowns. We're going to show you how the old ways, how we used to do it in the old ways, the old days. Some really cool techniques. And we're also going to remix that a bit as well and do the old with the new and the hybrid as well, so the hybrid systems and stuff. So yeah, let's crack on with this one, how to get your beats bigger, fatter, smashing the place down in Cubase. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Here's the track. Let's listen to it before and after. So no processing, this is just as it is right now. So you get the idea, nice little rolling sort of drum and bass beat. Now, with the plugins, and then we're going to talk about this. With the plugins and processing. Awesome. So, just like this subscriber asked me recently, big shout out to you by the way, how do you get them fatter? So this is what I do. I mean, there's like 2 or 3 parts I can do with this if you want to see some more on it. But on this particular beat, this is how I would do it. So we're going to show a couple of beats, a couple of types of beats as well, because obviously each type of beat, whether it's a breakbeat or pattern with the kicks and snares, will need different types of processing, and maybe not as much or maybe a bit more. So let's do the 2 types, and then you get the kind of vibe of where I'm going with this. So I can say, here's the break. Sounding pretty fat in the studio. Okay, so let's go through all the processes. Gonna disable everything so that we know that there's nothing on here at all. First one in the chain. Okay, so it's the GEQ. It's been in here for a long time in Cubase. Maybe 5 or maybe 6 or something like that. The GEQ. It's been there for a long time in different varieties, and it's had GUI updates and response updates. But I find this is really good. Obviously, if you're using an alternative, you want this really, go for as much multiband as you can. I say between 10 and 30, 15 maybe. You really want this region here and the response. So you want it from the low end. So you want it from maybe 25, starting from 25, 20 even if you can. This is really good. So now what I'm doing here is I'm taking it out, some of that low end energy. It's a breakbeat. This isn't even needed now. This is like, I mean, yes, you can use an EQ and then use a different type of bell curve and then invert it, and then, you know, and maybe some sort of dynamic EQ, which we'll show in a minute. But I find this is really great starting point. I'm going to clean up the beat, clean out what I don't want, and maybe boost what I might want to tackle a bit later on. So really good EQ for this, really simple. 25, 31, it's not needed. This is where a sub bass is going to go. Let's turn our EQ on so we get some sort of analysis here. I'm going to take that band off because we're going to use it later. And that's it really. So all this region, it's drum and bass. So it's going to be, it's a drum and bass beat, and so maybe, you know, it's going to have a lot of heavy, well, it is going to have a heavy sub bass. It's out of one of my old tracks, but there's loads of room here. You can see it carved in nicely. This is perfect for my sub now. This is where my sub can literally fit. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. So this is giving me that little safety net of taking all that low end energy out, which will affect headroom of the break and make it unmurky, if you know what I mean, make it less muddy. And here you can see here as well, 80 is giving me that 80 hertz is that little bit of a sort of a low end bump to things. And then the snare, I always say around 250 to 200 is where you get that kind of knocking, kind of mid range. And I've just boosted it there a little bit there. Not gone too mad because I can do stuff later on, but with and without. And that's really good. It just gives me a nice little starting point. And that then goes into the vintage compressor. Now this is a few versions back in Cubase, really great compressor. Obviously there's millions of types of vintage compressors. I have loads in the studio here, but if you're looking for a vintage compressor in Cubase, this is a really good starting point. So obviously input and output with this break, and most fastest type of music, you want a faster attack and slower release, but it has a punch mode, and the punch mode almost kind of overrides that, to be honest. It will always pick up the fastest transient and do the fastest attack. So punch mode is your friend on this one. By the laws of the old days and how I've always started doing this 30 odd years ago, I've always been taught about fast attack and slow release. So it's great to be able to have the punch mode that just kind of overrides that and does that. It all automatically will attack the transients. And then the ratio, you don't want it too high because I don't want to squeeze the life out of it. I want it to breathe a little bit as well. If things get a bit too unruly, you have the output dial to just dial it all back a bit. And of course, one of my favourite buttons, knobs in Cubase, it's kind of in most of the plugins now, is the mix knob. I love the way you can actually, blend the dry with the wet. So it's like a parallel compression. So with and without, let's check it out. And you can hear that punch. Really, really great plugin. So for those wondering, okay, what do I put first? What plugin and what route and what order? You can use your ears as well, but for me personally, how I've been doing it for many, many, many years is this way. Obviously in Cubase it's a left to right system initially, so it'll go through the inserts, then it goes into the channel strip, then it'll go into the equalizer, and then it'll go into the fader. But, however, you can actually come here to the strip and you can actually change the order, so the strip can then be first. So it's up to you where you want to go with your signal flow, but I prefer it to be this way with the inserts. I've kind of been brought through this way, and I quite like how that works. And another tip as well is, because you have all these slots in Cubase, they kind of doubled up over the last few years. It doesn't mean you have to populate every single thing on here. As you can see later, there'll be one or two maybe bypassed. So you don't have to use every single slot. And with the new edition of, well, not the new edition, but one of the later editions, the channel strip is a great tool built into Cubase. Heavily optimized. Latency is minimal, nothing. It sounds great. Plus, it's fully reorderable as well, so you can actually really then have a custom chain within here. And if you were maybe running along CPU and you wanted to maybe optimize things, or you just wanted to get a quick chain down, you can go to channel strip and save just a channel strip, because it's that powerful. You can get a really great sound out of it. But I like to mix the best of both worlds. So stock with third party with the OG plugins, and this was what kind of works for me. Okay, so third plugin is frequency EQ. So if you haven't seen it, full equalization across the 2020 spectrum. You can cut and boost without any real resonance or distortion. It's fully transparent. It has mid-side, it has left and right. It has dynamic EQ on every single node. So it's really, really powerful. Great EQ. And on here, all I've done is literally just take off that little bit of welly after 100. That. And all I've done is a little EQ in here. But the great thing about this EQ is, so I'm on band 2, which is this one. And for those that are savvy enough, you can EQ by key. I can't really do that. But I know where all the frequencies are, obviously. So I can go to single mode here, and then I can see, look. I can actually then control it dynamically. So I can just say maybe that node's too heavy. I can bring in a dynamic EQ there, which is technically compressing an EQ at the same time. In that particular region, at that particular time, it's bringing it in. And now I'm actually controlling just that little 100 hertz sort of punch, because sometimes it can get a bit too overpowering in a breakbeat. You want it to be quite balanced when you look at it on an analyzer. And that's what you're kind of seeing now. It's starting to be quite balanced rather than everything up here, and then it's like, oh crap, it's overpowering in that. So if you want to look at it a bit further, I'm going to go here to the stereo out, and then we can say supervision. Love this plugin. So this is a full analysis suite now, tucked into Cubase, and it keeps getting added to. It's really powerful. It's fully modular, so you can stack on what you want and what you don't want to see. You can do ambisonics, surround, left and right, mid-side. You can do anything in it. You can check your panorama, your phasing, your correlation, your loudness units, your LUF units. So the thing I like about it is I've customized this how I want it. My VU meters, I'm sat in front of them now with the Wes Audio stuff and my rack, so I can see. I like that style. I've been using it for years. It's quite, to my eyes, it's quite what's the word? Responsive, because that's how I've been used to seeing things. I have my time on here, panorama, and the waveform view. It's just great to see, as we saw later on in the chain, it's just great to see how the loudness might affect things and where we are in the chain, how far we're going down. Okay, so let's close the rest of the plugins down, keep things tidy. Let's go back to our group channel. Okay, so here's the channel. Now we're going to go into this one. This is an amazing plugin. This is one of my favorite plugins. So this came in Cubase 8.5, if I remember rightly. It might be 8. So this is the multiband envelope shaper. So again, the common theme is across the 2020 spectrum, you have full control over every single band. So this is great because now I get to open up and choose what kind of frequency range I want to zero in on and attack it, maybe volume-wise, dynamically. This is an amazing tool because usually when you get an envelope shaper or a transient shaper, it's usually just one band. So then you might have to stack them in and do some trickery to get the multiband experience. But in the one plugin here, it's all in one plugin. It's incredible, this plugin. Absolutely incredible. And it's just built into Cubase. So I think from Cubase Artist onwards, this is in every single version. So I've only used the mid, the low mid, and the high mid in this, so the highs. So the lows, I'm not going to touch them. I've already attenuated what I don't need and kept that nice and tidy. I don't want to mess with that element at all. So hence why this band has not been turned on. Now you can solo as well. So I can solo certain frequencies and I go right across, or I can mute, I can disable them, I can turn them off. But what's great about this plugin is in this sort of knock region here now, so 200 onwards to 5K, I want it to punch through a bit more. So I've added a bit of volume because I like to bring out that mid more. I like that sort of sound. That's just my preference. But also now I can actually attack that as well. So check this out. It's on 2.2 now. Really punching. Obviously that's extreme example, but then also in the release section, I'm on -7. So I can actually attack and release at the same time. So the release means I can actually really, just in that particular band, that range that I've chosen, I can open up that section. So I can almost add more space and reverb in that section. Have a listen. Tighter. Open up. This is a killer plugin for me. Absolutely amazing because I love punchy drums, I love dynamics, and this one plugin just does everything that I need it to do as far as dynamics and punch and attacking and all that kind of stuff is concerned. But it's got some nice little tricks there with the release. I love that. So in that mid region, let's bring it back a bit more now, where we were. Just keep it tight. Really happy with that. Let's move across now to the high mid. So or the highs, should I say? This is the highs. So I can solo this, and now I can get an idea by what kind of attack I want by maybe opening the length a bit more, the release, really opening that release, or just tightening it, attacking that release, attacking that transient, or just dial it back down again. Unsolo it and hear it all in context. Open it up, tighten it, attack. They can really hear the highs. You can really hear the highs really cutting through the mix now. So this is great for maybe if you have a breakbeat and everything's just nicely balanced and it's like, I just want them hi-hats to cut through a bit more. So rather than EQing it, you can just use this to cut through. Or what's also a nice trick up its sleeve is you can do it in reverse. So you have a mix and the drums are really bashing through. It's like, okay, I like that, but a little bit overpowering. Sonically, volume-wise, are okay. They're just okay, but dynamically, the vocals are getting in the way and it's too clashy. You can do it in reverse, so I can actually soften the dynamics in this. So you can really You can really sculpt to, you know, how you want these drums. It's amazing. Can I get back to where we were again? So yeah, I absolutely love this plugin, and everything's going into this. And of course, like I say, you have the control over the volume, you have control over the attack, and you can obviously soften it as well, but also you have control over the release. You can mute and solo. Amazing, amazing plugin. So yeah, love it. Next, we're going into this. This is the UAD plugin. Big shout out to the UAD guys. So this is based on the Helius. I think it's the mixing console. I'm a mixing desk person. I've had mixing desks for 3 decades now. I cannot have a mixing desk. I have the Sony Oxford one here, and I just like to have the EQ and have the sort of sounds of stuff and cutting EQs and making things mono and all that kind of stuff. And this is based on the desk, so I don't know what the actual desk sounds of this particular plugin, but it's an amazing plugin for getting a kind of a warm mid sound. And I like the fact it's got fixed bands as well, so you can actually zero in on, like I said, the low mid, which is what the region that I love. On here, it's fixed at, you know, you can see 300, 200, 100, is it 60 there? So you can really then just fix it and just not get, you know, too dissuaded by other sort of features and sort of settings. Like, okay, it's fixed bands, all right, I know what I need to do out of this. I know what I want to. I know what I want. I'm on 100 there, right, I can boost or cut that, and the mids as well. So it's a really, really great EQ. And it has a nice sound as well, a very, very, very nice sound. So with and without, it's so nice. It just, yeah, it does have a mojo to it. I've not used that word, I don't think, on this channel. Maybe I have, but it has, this is the plugin that has it for me. And I've had it for a long time. I think this is the legacy version, so I'm not sure if it's been updated and all that kind of stuff, but just I've had it for a long time and it just sounds great. It just reminds me of the old sort of gear. So yeah, so I've got that fixed band here, and you can hear them highs cutting through, but also that mid as well. So I don't want to change anything too much on here, but if you can have a look at it, you can see what it's doing. And also we have a level adjust as well, which is really handy. So if you're driving into it too much, you can actually back off the whole level as well. So yeah, it's a really, really cool EQ. For that low mid kind of sound, I like that boxy sound. I've been doing that sound. That was my whole sound was based on that kind of boxy mid-rangey sound, because obviously it just, as breakbeats, it sounds more appealing, like a drummer's snare, boxy and ringing, club systems, all that kind of stuff. Breakbeats just rattling through the mids. I love that kind of sound. And this plugin, yeah, I think this is probably one of my little secret plugins, to be honest. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plugins there. With and without, let's do a quick one. Great, I love it. So obviously there's volume being added here, but that's fine. Everything can be changed in this chain. I just want to make sure that I get it sounding right, more importantly than the volume. When I get it sounding right, I can use the volume fader, I can use the pre-gain, I can use the plugins that have their own levels in it. I can do loads of tricks, but I just want to get it sounding right first. So don't be too focused on the level right now, not in the channel phase. Cubase is really good at handling stuff like this. You can drive channels. This is something that it's really known for in this sort of world. You know, the breakbeat, drum and bassy, bass music, jungle world is like, we know we can drive Cubase channels. We can actually drive them, and they sound good. So okay, so that's my channel. So now let's go across to the channel strip. And before I just do that, I want to show you finally on this chain, I've got 2 other plugins. There's another multiband envelope shaper. We don't need that. It's doing, I've got enough dynamics. But if you found out after the equalization, things were maybe too sharp, for instance, or they weren't sharp enough, or it was missing something, then you would probably put the envelope shaper back on again and then do some more dynamics. But I think there's a nice healthy amount in there already. So in this chain here, we have, if you just want the extra bit of welly, it's the BrainwoRx Townhouse bus compressor. So literally a bus compressor to lock off your things, and I'm obviously in the post fader slot here as well. So it's like literally controlling things before I go into the channel strip. Sometimes I have it on, sometimes I don't. Maybe we'll put it on at the end and see how you feel about it. But sometimes that's enough for me, and then I go into the channel strip. But then maybe I need a bit more welly, a bit more oomph. And that was when I will put that on. So let's listen to that one at the end. And then here we have a reverb as well. So obviously the beat has a bit of air in there. I've opened up a bit in the multiband envelope shaper, but you do want some sort of reverb in there as well. You want some sort of space, ambience. A drummer's not in a an echoless room. They're in a, you know, like there's a clap here. This room's got reverb. They're in a natural room, a natural environment. So your drums always have some sort of reverb. How much you put on into it is up to you. You can use it creatively, or you can just use it really subtly. I like to be a bit subtle so that there is something in there. So when you hear it, it's like, okay, it's got some nice ambience to it. It's got a nice sound to it, a nice ring. This is the Flex Verb from SSL. Really, really cool reverb. You can EQ it as well. It's really, you've got real control over the reverb. It's nice. It's really, really nice. And then obviously you've got your tail, how much tail you're putting on, the diffusion, the room size, the reverb time. This is one I've tweaked to taste. Let's go through it and have a quick listen. Now let's zero in on the tail and add how much tail, which will be the sort of flavour of this actual reverb, what it's adding. I'm going to open up the wet so you really hear what it's doing. There's the tail. More tail. Tighter. That's kind of what I want, that kind of drumming. It's in a room and you can hear it. It's got a nice vibe to it, a nice meaning to it. I like that. More space, it's more natural. So that tail I'm happy with. So now I can just dial back the parallel knob so I can actually make it more drier. So it's not so big and it's not going to overpower in the mix. It's not going to make up the mix. It's just got a nice little touch on it. And let's dial it back. Something like that. Really cool, really that easy. Obviously, whatever reverb you choose is totally up to you. I guess that's the fun bit, is going through multiple reverbs and see what kind of works for you. I mean, there's millions out there. There's some amazing reverbs. The stock reverbs are great in most stores as well, so you can just choose them. You know, this one in particular, no pun intended, it rang to me a bit. It actually was like, okay, you know what? Yeah, I like that. But I have millions. I don't just stuck on this one. I like this one in particular. It's on this particular break. But in the chain, is more important is where I would actually have it. I would always have it here, probably near the end of the chain. I would never reverb the beat first. That's just something I wouldn't do. Clean up, treating, dynamics, reverb. Okay, so with and without the reverb. Yep, I'm really happy with that. So, like I said about this before at the beginning, the signal flow is going into, so it's going through the inserts and then into the chain, into the equalizer, and then out here in the fader. Also, you have the send slot as well if you want to send it to another bus or a group or anything like that. So that is a signal flow, but it can be altered, it can be changed, fully customizable. So I've gone into the noise gate. This is a more creative preference. So I like to have my beats a bit tight, a bit gaty, so it just gives me a bit more room to maybe put more stuff in there, like other percussion elements, and then build it up like that. That's just my creative preference. But if you listen to it, you can hear what it's doing. It's literally opening up the gate, letting some of the break in, and then tightening it. And you've got full control over that as well. This is built into the channel strip. So with and without. With. There. Extreme. I just like that. I just like to tighten things up a bit, so there's not a lot of bleed through. I just like that. It's always what I've done. It's a creative like thing. It works really good on actual full-on breakbeats, which I can show you again later on. But that's always my first in my chain. The compressor we don't need. I'm happy with that at the moment. We can look at that on the next break that we show. Equalization. I like to do that here in this particular region. This makes things a lot simpler. So here in the chain, in fact, maybe we can turn it off because we don't need it. And then we can turn it back on here when we do need it. So channel strip here, we've got Magneto. So Magneto is on its second version. This is the channel strip version. It's the same as the one that's in the insert plugin. Obviously the controls, the big tape reels running together and a few other things. But this is a brilliant plugin for adding that kind of tape saturation sound. I have the Wes stuff here and the TLA stuff and the 1120 stuff down there. And this gives it that kind of sound. Like, this actual tape saturation warming things up, especially in the bottom end region. Now, you can probably put it on a master bus. I wouldn't show that too much. I wouldn't do that so much, but I could show you if you want me to show you how to do that. For breaks, yeah, because you want your breaks warm. You might have sampled them off vinyl, digital. Nowadays, maybe iPhone. You might have got you may be trying to remaster an old break that you have old samples, and this is great for that. So quickly showing you saturation knob, low frequency. You're going to dial in where you want that low frequency to boost. High frequency adjust, so you might want to darken the hi-hats a little bit and make it a bit more natural, organic sounding, and then what frequency you want to do that. Really cool here, we have a high frequency adjust, so you can just actually change the level, the volume of the high frequencies, as well as actually what range you want to treat. And a solo mode, which is great. And of course, then output, everything goes through the output, and then you drive that. So if I put it in solo mode and turn it on, you can really hear this, what it's doing. So the saturation is really adding that extra bit of mojo, with and without. It's giving a real kick to things as well. And that's sort of, because I'm heading here with the low frequency, I'm pushing some of that in, but it still looks good on the analyzer. And of course, I can go a bit wild with it for an extreme example. Don't want to change it too much. You get a real knock out of this. I love this plugin. Let's be a bit more sensible now. Just dial it back a bit. So the low frequency there, I've chose that frequency range to just cut through, and the high frequency adjust. Watch your ears, by the way. That sharpness. So you can almost like equalize it as well. So you can also almost equalize this saturation, warm up the highs a bit more, make them a bit darker, make them a bit warmer, because a breakbeat's not going to be ultra sharp, or a beat isn't going to be ultra sharp. And if it is ultra sharp, this is your nice little go-to here. You can actually darken that a little bit and make it a bit more appealing. Because obviously then after this, I might put hi-hats on top of it and bongos and sheen breaks and all that kind of stuff. And so that can do that element. So the highs are not really needed in this so much. It's just a kick and a snare really rolling around. But yeah, great plugin. It really adds the extra bit of, specialness to things, I think, in this chain. So I would always, out of all the plugins that might be interchangeable, multiband envelope shaper is always on things. The Helius EQ is always on things, and the Magneto is always on things. So these are like the staples for me, and everything just builds around them. And I guess the fun bit is finding other plugins that work for you and how they might work. And also maybe a GEQ as well, also put it at the front of everything because I want to clean things up. So yeah, so the person who asked about that, I hope this is helping, how you can get your beats fatter. And obviously if you use another DAW, then you can just see what type of plugins are, and of course you can replicate them as well. So there's millions of types of plugins, especially at the moment. I think there's loads on, is it the sales and stuff like that? So yeah, really, really cool. Okay, so then we're going into the equalization. Really simple. It's a little bit, I won't say flat, it just needs a little bit of a boost now. And although I darkened the highs, I've got them highs how I wanted them to be. Overall now, I want to just do a little bit of boost on the highs, on the high shelf here. That's it, from 2K to 20K. Just a little bit of extra for the whole of the break. And this is it. It's really simple, with and without. Really cool. So, I mean, that there is not a load of plugins, but the plugins are doing a really good job of what they do. So I would say there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is a noise gator plugin? Maybe not. 7. That's it. So there's 7 plugins and a little bit of EQ, just a little bit of sugar on the top there. 7 plugins, and that's more than enough, I think, for getting your beats fatter. With and without, again, full example. I'm going to bypass everything. Without. And with. And if you look here on our final analyzer, you can actually see on supervision where everything's sitting and fitting. The snare, you can see it popping up. You can see it's quite nicely balanced. And there's no phasing problems as well, which is what the wave scope will give you. Any sort of phasing issues, you can see maybe something might be too wide, and it just shows you. So this is a nice little snapshot. You can add on, like I say, it's quite modular. You can add on way more modules, what you need to see. You know, the energy of frequency ranges. You can color scheme everything now. It's really, really good. So yeah. Quickly to say for the Cubase users, like I say, these come in this version of Cubase Pro. Vintage compressors in there from the artist version, as is frequency EQ, if I remember rightly, and Magneto. And then obviously I have stuff here from this is from UAD, the Helius, and then SSL, we have the reverb in there as well. Okay, so finally, just to quickly show you, if you want even more welly out of this, when I say welly, I mean more oomph out of things, than is this Townhouse one, which is probably too much, but let's have a listen. Here we go. I mean, that's really slamming, and I'd probably lie, probably use that and get away with that, but I didn't use it on this beat originally, so I do use this quite a bit. If something needs that little bit of extra punch and, you know, to cut through, it's a really cool plugin. Shout out to BrainwoRx, yeah, great plugin. Bus compression, I use it on the desk, it just works great. There's many ways of using it creatively, as well as just having the simple job of locking off your bus, everything goes into the bus, all your beats are gelled, and you have a sort of unified sort of sound. So it gives you that a bit as well, obviously, but because I'm mixing it up with a channel strip, it's kind of like a loud puncher now for me. It's like slamming through things. Really, really cool plugin. Yeah, so there you go. So that's on a drum and bass type beat. So let's move across to something more slower, more sort of naturally sort of like a break beat. This is like when I've put things together and made a beat. This is an actual break beat, and that's kind of from the 80s. Is this particular version? It's way older than that, but this is like an 80s version of this break. So let's listen to it. I'm sure you know where it is. Let's go flat again. Everything's flat here. Yep. And here's the break beat. And then I'm sure everyone, well, if you don't, get into the archives. If you recognise this one, it's obviously Apache and the variations of that. And this one's from a well-known 80s track. Now this track, this break, I use this in one of my jungle tracks from 1997. So I'll try and pop that up somewhere. It was called Systematic, and it was a remix of ST Files, for those drum and bass jungle people. Big shout out to ST Files. It was a remix of one of his tracks that was on the Intellects label. So a big shout out to Mark and Marcus. Rest in peace, Marcus. So this is from that time, and he did a track called Systematic. And have a look. This is like a 1997 jungle classic on my label, Prohibition, PHB, many, many moons ago. So have a listen, have a look, should I say. And this is the track here. So this is the remix that I did for him, and I used that break. We sped it up, put it in the 950. If you want to see a breakdown of this, let me know, and I will do a breakdown of how to do all this and how I'll put this track together. No idea if I'm going to get copyright strikes or anything. I mean, it is my track, but it has happened before. But anyway, here's the original break. And here's the version that I used in it. So that's what I did with the break, chopped it up, sped it up, I put it in the 950, it's got a nice grunge to it. But obviously the processing, I'm going to show you how I kind of process that now in the Cubase realm. So let's go to the drop so you can kind of hear how it sounded. Maybe there, maybe, one of the drops. Yeah, I was going then. I was in my time machine floating away. I just love the old days. I love jungle and I love the old days. Okay, so that was 1997, and that was that break. I chopped it up, sped it up, like I said, in the 950, and it had a certain sound when I put it through the desk, put it through the old compressors and stuff. And now in this realm, I can bring that break in and remaster it now by doing the new techniques, the new workflows, and then the plugin chain that I've shown you. So let's have a listen to this on this chain. Let's just turn everything on and go in straight. Let's go in blind. Wow. And this is just me real-time live doing that. Okay. Highs. Strip. Insert. Wow, it's just banging that. It's almost too much now. So I'm going to take the bus compressor off. Love the reverb where it is. Now, this is what's saying about using the multi-band envelope shaper. Excuse me. The fact that it's maybe too sharp now. So it's actually a bit sharp in the highs. So I can then turn it on my highs. And here's the highs here. I can maybe attenuate them a little bit volume-wise. And what I'm going to do is soften the dynamics there because it's a little bit sharp cutting through. And then I'm going to use that. And this high mid as well, I'm going to take it down a little bit. That's it, it makes it a bit more natural. With and without. You can hear how tight it gets, I love that. I love this break. I could listen to it all day. Anyway, you get the idea. So, yeah, I've kept everything kind of the same, and it kind of works if you look at it, the whole analysis of that. Quite well balanced. Obviously, you can see it's an old break, so it's missing a bit of that high-end information, which I don't mind, to be honest. I think it was sampled off vinyl many, many moons ago, so... Yeah, I mean, I'm really happy with that. Even the gating mode, like, it just tightens things up. And let's hear it with and without the gate. I kind of like it with the gate. Open now. Tighter. Yeah, I love that. It just really tightens things up. And again, if I go back to the multi-band envelope shaper, I can say maybe I want to add more of that air, of that high mid, that sort of air, the bongo side to it. I can then say, okay, let's open up the release. And solo it so I can really hear what I'm doing. And really find the sweet spot. And there you go. So that is how you make your beats bang. That's how you make them bigger, better, fatter in Cubase and using the plugins. A mixture of nice plugins there, cool plugins. And that's kind of the workflow that I use, like in today's world. And again, if it was the hardware old days world, then you wouldn't have millions of racks of stuff. You literally see there, you've got some equalization, compression, saturation. The only thing that I wish we had back in the days was the multi-band envelope shaper. We used to do extreme compression on that and do parallel stuff and then drive the desk to get that kind of punch, which still was really good. We've got loads of great punch, but the fact that we can have it over the 2020 spectrum and then choose our dynamics, we can just choose where we want to punch things or attenuate things. It is really powerful. So that is probably my favorite plugin, full stop. Like there's not a track or a master or anything else that I've done even in the hardware world, that this isn't involved in. So yeah, big shout out to Steinberg on that and smashed that plugin. So there you go. Back again soon. If you want to see any more videos, please let me know in the comments, and I will gladly oblige or try to oblige. It's just me, so we'll see what I can do. Big shout out to everyone who's liking, subscribing, and commenting and sharing and all that kind of stuff. If you like what you've seen, let me know. And yeah, 10,000 is going to be a giveaway. Hopefully we'll get it before Christmas. Let's see. And if not, it'll be at Christmas anyway. So there's going to be some cool prizes. I'll let you know more as the weeks go ahead. And yeah, there's going to be some really cool prizes. So thanks for tuning in, and I will see you soon. Peace.